I don't think people realize the commitment and the dedication and the effort and the work that goes into being that. And I just remember going every week, like, who wants this right now? Like, this is not, none of this was fun for me. But I remember talking to some people on the team and they like really enjoyed it. For you, was any of it fun at all?
My favorite part was after the working out. During the workouts, I found it very hard to enjoy it at all. But there was a moment that really stood out to me when we were doing the partner carries in the soft sand, and I was just miserable. And I look over, and one of the top guys is looking at me, and he's smiling, and I can tell from his face that he's loving it. He's having a good time, and I just couldn't believe that. That changed my perspective, and I always found it hard to enjoy things while in the middle of a challenge and in the middle of that much discomfort. But that's something I tried to work on at Team Eagle One, and it was those guys that made it stand out to me.
Did it change for you after that smile and that like, what was that perspective shift for you? Were you then smiling through the pain after that? Or
I was trying to. It definitely changed my perspective where I can have such a better attitude about this. I'm going to be doing it either way, so I might as well have some fun and see the positive in it.
For myself, I had weekly mantras that I'd be playing in my head, and I had a theme song in my head. So that way it would like power me to go through it, and I would smile. Like, I always smile. For me, it was just the only way I could get myself to not quit. Did you have, I mean, you mentioned you counted and you were always focused on everybody else, but did you ever have a moment where you were like, I'm done, like I can't go anymore?
Yeah, there was one where Coach Mack had us doing half-mile sprints, and we were doing that on repeat. I think he told us that we were going to do 4 of those in a row, and I think we ended up doing 12. Towards the middle of that, I think I just hadn't eaten enough that morning, and I've been pushing myself every single time, and I got to the point where the last few hundred feet of every sprint towards the finish line, I would start losing my vision, and it got to the point where I couldn't see. Like, everything would just go white as I'd cross the finish line, and I like couldn't stand. After that, my pace dropped significantly, and the same thing happened. And then Coach Mack asked me if I was okay, and half my face was like not working. Like, my one eye would open and close, but the other was like behind, and I just felt super off, and I couldn't stand up straight. And he had me sit out for one of those repeats that time. But that was a point where it's like, man, I'm reaching the limit.
Yeah, that would be terrifying for myself if I'm just seeing white. Were you dry? Were you wet? Were you on wet sand? Were you on dry sand?
This was on the concrete walkway that we were doing. I don't remember if we were wet and sandy or not. But yeah, even with the ease of running on the concrete compared to the soft sand, it was a challenge. The speed went up significantly, but the effort didn't decrease for many of us. So that was a hard day.
And then how did you get yourself to come back?
I don't know. It just kind of happened. I never got to the point where I was going to sit myself out. I just told myself, if it's going to happen, like, coach is going to have to tell me to stop. When I didn't want to run anymore at that point, and I was having those difficulties, when he said, ready, go, I would just go. And I would be sensitive to my body and like how uncomfortable I was, and I would push myself past the point of discomfort, even if that point was half of my normal pace. Like, I would just push to the same amount of effort because I just couldn't keep up the same speed with what my body was doing. My body was just telling me he wouldn't do anymore.
How do you push yourself past to the point of discomfort?
I always found it to be easy with the team, and I would always just focus on the people's discomfort around me, which is another tool that Coach Mack taught us, was just looking around and seeing how everyone else is going through the same thing, and then realizing that, you know, if they can do it, then I can do it. So that's pretty much always how I would push myself through the discomfort.